Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shyzalosophy 101. Here's your host, Shyzabox. Oh, is the show starting? Oh, it must be. We heard our introduction. Oh, everyone loves us. Girl. Everyone loves us. Get out of here. And the horse you rode in on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, nuns and all. That's right. Priests, preachers, cardinals, rabbis, missionaries, whoever, whoever's around looking for somewhere to go, somewhere to hang out, something to do. They accidentally clicked on this. Whatever. It happens. Point is that I've got a show for you today, and it's free. That's right. Might be saying, we wish it wasn't. Fair enough. You never know. You get what you pay for. Point is that now that the fire's out, you might be saying, is it though really? I guess that is debatable. Now that the fire's out though, and we, for the most part, have narrowed down the issues and problems that we were having with some of our, developmental works and things of that nature. Yeah, that's right. Yes, frustrating, surely. When you try to deliver an entire package of wares and end up only being able to cut off and break off a slice, it's a little frustrating. Lo and behold, the fire itself is still going because we got a couple strides to go in lengths and things of that nature. However, on the plus side, the dumpster's pretty much been carted off because we kind of figured out what the main problem was. And that's the fact that we're poor. We refuse to try and pay entities to host different, things of that nature. So when Pinata has, multi-tiers of versions and we go with the free version, yes, it's because we refuse to, pay for that of which we can provide and do on our own, just not to the full working parameters that we'd like it to be. Not the, instantaneous, wild west that we would like to adhere to, and or, even venture into. That's right. When you're playing with things like IPFS sites and, things of that nature, and you have the components of big corporations and entities kind of, making it an uphill battle the entire time, no, that's right. Making you have to download further extensions to get sites to work, not wanting you to file share, not wanting you to, share things with that of your peers and things of that nature. Well, yeah, sure. These major companies, of course, they theoretically, obviously, this is all for philosophical entertainment, they venture to make it, rather difficult to, share everything that should be shared. Okay? So that's why we make it easy for you. Well, easy enough. On the IPFS site itself, we have, the games, the demos, the stuff we make on stream with the audience and things of that nature. Yes. All good fun. But sometimes it takes a little longer to load on mobile. Sometimes it takes a little longer, even if you're on PC, if you're waiting for your, chance to jump in the line and get any of it, starting to hit your system or anything like that, can prove rather frustrating. That's right, sure, fair enough. We don't enjoy having to wait for an IPFS site to load or anything like that as well. Yes, hello and hi. Point being is that now that we know, moving the dumpster out of the way, okay, the fire's still there because in the little mobile version that we have, we're still encountering some issues with the audio. We had to cut some of the, kind of features and things of that nature. But everything else is structurally in place, okay? The little mobile kind of booster and stuff to get at least a visual eye on the prize and things of that nature, something like that. we had to throttle the shit out of it, okay? Well, sure. It's not the regular IPFS site with all the games and demos, okay? When no one's donating a shit ton of money to us, we use the free version of Pinata, okay? Point is that means that we have to disseminate through the free version of the tiers that Pinata offers, okay? Now, sorry we're not one of the rich, better streamers. Yes, laughter warranted. A little delayed, but we'll chalk it up to a buffering issue. Yes, it's hilarious. Because we're funny sometimes. Point is that now that we know what the issue is, and that's the kind of file size that we had was just way too massive entirely, okay? We're sharing way too many awesome things, okay? You can still get to it if you're on PC, all the better and such, you can venture into it. And if people start, kind of hosting and, kind of becoming a node for that of the site itself and stuff, all the better. It'll be, even more fruitful for that of what it brings to the table or can be made with the community, or that of what, anyone, feels is lacking or needed on that of Web3, okay? Point is that when the community comes together and when an infrastructure is in place that at least can be, utilized in one degree, way, shape, or form, at least structurally, we can kind of see what our issue is now. We can see what our problem is now, and now we can adjust. So while we have a little boosted mobile version of the IPFS that is completely limited with a mere 3 offerings on it, the Swarm Mesh demo and the LimeWire-inspired music player that's, not completely functional right now, well, sure. All right, but we spent a couple days, man, trying to wrap HTML and CSS and trying to get all this stuff to work, this, that, the other. Well, not really that funny, really kind of pain in the ass. And, since we're not inherently by nature coders or anything like that, is even a bigger pain in the ass. That wasn't a joke. Point is that now that we have at least an iteration up and running, you can get a visual kind of overall feel of it. We have not linked the Swarm Mesh demo, all right, to the other working iterations and things of that nature, so it's still going to just be, working on its own, I guess, network that you can put it on. So if you pull up the site twice and, you can connect to yourself on the Swarm Mesh demo, and you can see that it's a working version and iteration, all right? It's just not going to be linked to the other, kind of IPFS Swarm Mesh demo that we have as well. Okay? Well, you're working with a static site and a kinetic site and such or whatever if you're, going to look at it one way or another, because Pinata is just going to ping and have, kind of pinned that of what we already gave it, all right? And it's a very, very, very laid-back, minuscule iteration and offering of what our native IPFS site has, okay? Well, it's almost like night and day going to it, okay? We only put Shyzapong on there, the Swarm Mesh demo, and the music player that has issues. Well, we'll fix it. Point is that when we fix it, we're actually going to have to change the CID number as well, because we're going to have to re-upload it to Pinata, and it's just an even bigger pain in the ass. Well, that's what happens when people don't donate us a shit ton of money to pay for all this shit for us. Well, that's right. Yeah, but, we would expect no one inherently to. But it's getting to the point where inherently it's going to be like, maybe we are looking for research partners. Maybe we are looking for silent partners or entities or things of that nature that, feel like investing into, different ventures and endeavors and things of that nature. Because inherently, we're just at the build stage anyway, right? That's right, something to celebrate. So if we were to venture down that route or anything like that, then, how could, as a public, as a, general, the internet, that's right, how could we get together and come up with a decentralized way to have, kind of working apparatus in place, right? Something to kind of question. Yeah, now, as we venture to think of that, and think of endeavors that we can undertake and ways that we can, work with other individuals or whoever wants to, to bring new things to fruition or to light, then inherently it'll improve all the better, be all the more worthwhile. It'll be all the more working, okay? When we just try and, in essence, we've had a few takes now at trying to get an entire massive functional version of our site up on, Pinata. But it's just not going to be in the cards there, okay? Now, our file's getting to be way, way, way too massive. Our site offers way, way, way too much. So for the little free version of Pinata, it's just not going to cut it, okay? So, we'll throttle it. We can do multiple releases. We can try and pinpoint where things are. And, hell, if it's just easy enough to, disseminate things that way, we can go ahead and make demos on stream. We can make games on stream. And we can just disseminate them that old-fashioned way by just putting them on Pinata and let everyone have a good old-fashioned time with them. Okay? Inherently, though, that's what we want to avoid. Okay? We want to utilize Pinata for the awesome service that it is. Yes, fantastic service. All right? But when you're an independent researcher, okay, when you don't have the funds, okay, behind you, that research grants and, little background entities and stuff like that throwing cash at you, when you don't have those means in place, or when you don't have, acceptable means to accept those in place, all right, then you're kind of left to your own devices, and you're left to your own, accord as far as what you want to venture forth to present and put forward and, put out. With that being the case, we ourselves want to venture to put out the best working iterations of things possible. Okay? Yes, something to celebrate. We want all of the games to be functional working, all of the demos, all of the, scientific tools, this, that, the other. It's when they're in place, when they're functional, and easily, obtainable. That's the, thing that we want to focus on now. How can we streamline the process, all right, of what we do without, kind of signing that NDA contract with a bigger company to provide things, right? Unless there's a kind of, grassroots effort, all right, on the behalf of individuals and entities or folks like-minded that get together and formulate actual thoughts and opinions on things. Now, we're always open-minded to collaborations and things of that nature. We always, of course, have the email open and, definitely on periodical occasion, check the X and the Bluesky and all that. So if you have any ideas or things of that nature with which you think should maybe be brought to fruition or created, developed, you want to collaborate thereupon or thereon, man, send an email, send a message. We enjoy doing all of that stuff. We love putting things together, and we love putting things together that inherently are made with other individuals because it's all the more fun. That's right. But as we think to ourselves, we are really stoked to know inherently what the issue was, all right? Trying to offer a massive site and a massive, just plethora of games and things of that nature, which we'll still inherently offer on the IPFS site, okay? Well, obviously, we'll maintain that. It's the easiest way to have the working links and iterations and demos and stuff like that hit live immediately, and anyone who follows that on the, PC, you're going to reap a little bit of a faster turnaround and benefit. That bridge, though, that we want to, conquer, that bridge that we want to, throw up, is the one that inherently is that tie to the mobile devices and things of that nature. And like we said before, without finding a way, all right, to get additional pinnings done, all right, on iterations and versions, all right, inherently that's going to be a tougher challenge, okay, unless we can, as a community, as a entity as the internet in itself, okay, can come up with a way, all right, to begin laying even a stronger foundation into Web 3, well, that's even all the better. All right, you have working iterations of codes and programs and, places that you can go to get these things. But once you foundationally have a very, very, very strong structure in place, I mean, it's immovable at that point, and just becomes the cornerstone foundation, becomes the Ask Jeeves, right? Is that still around? Is that still a cornerstone? But, hold on, management's calling. What do you want? We're on time. We're doing the show. Uh-huh. Yeah, we did earlier. Uh-huh. Now we're going to. Of course. Wouldn't miss it. Yes, of course. Obviously. Management thinks they know how to run the place. Alas, we are reminded from them calling them from the booth, we do got to do something that inherently needs to be done on almost every single stream that we do, okay? That's right. And without further ado, we must say, in regards to our last stream, sorry about that. Yes, excellent. Good. Now that we've apologized for our past streams and probably misspeakings or, speaking incorrectly, doesn't matter, they're the same thing, really. We can venture forth on clearing out that of which is inherently the crap left over, right? As we now know that file sizes on the free versions of Pinata come into play, and we can't offer all of the games and all of the demos at once, we'll break it up. We'll make some, nice little chunked up offerings. We still got to now work on the one that we just threw up, on the descriptification now at the very bottom, right? The little mobile thing. But it's some eye candy for you to look at if you're looking for something really fast to swap or whatever, anything like that. Functional completely. That link is on PC. The mobile audio needs work, and we'll, attend to that sooner than later, and then obviously we'll burn that entire link and get a new one up there. But I like this one. Well, fair enough, but we want to have the best possible link up. Okay? In order to do that, okay, it's going to be still on a little bit of a learning curve for us, okay? We're not perfect, as much as we try to be, and fail to be. It wasn't a joke. Point is that as we strive to put up the best working models and demos and, iterations of things and stuff like that, everything right now is completely functional on our IPFS as it sits. Okay? Fantastic. Wait your turn. If you get a 500, 502, 504, you just gotta wait. It is what it is. We're not paying a pinning service until we get sponsors or something. It is what it is, can't do nothing about that. But what we can do is go ahead and clear the air yet once more, okay? That's right. We can touch base, all right, and go ahead and, as a philosopher ourselves, okay? We didn't say a good one. As a philosopher ourselves, okay, being even in the conversation of being a good philosopher, okay? Again, we're not saying we are. Every good philosopher, though, needs to have their own poetry book, obviously. That's why ours is available on Amazon.com and Kindle Unlimited, okay? How poetry, poetry, we now want to go ahead and venture into a reading of this because, why not, it's our show. Fantastic. But, as everyone knows who follows 90s sitcoms and things of that nature, you can't just read a poem out into the aether, okay, without first cleansing the air. That's right. Or else, guess what? That's right. Joey's going to show up. So you got to be sure that you clear the air, all right, in typical 90s fashion. That's what we're going to do now. There's only one way to do this. Anyone who's seen 90s movies or sitcoms knows this is the only way that you can clear the aether so that you can actually recite poetry. Obviously, it might have bled over into the early 2000s, but mainly from the 90s sitcoms. Takes 3, everyone knows that. Excellent. All right, the air's cleansed. Now we can read some poetry and crap. Good. This one, like we said, is from our work. You can find it on Amazon.com. You got to search that shit out yourself. This one's called Socrates. Boss, careful. Looks like hemlock. Looks right. That much is known. Next time around, don't you dare drink. Fight for love and for that of home. Let not city decide your fate. Roll over, do not do. Poison only rots the mind, killing you throughout. Resist or don't. Poison's bad. Excellent, yes. Fantastic. Believe you me. Having that kind of poetic, we don't want to say genius, okay? So we don't. Having that kind of poetic prowess, I guess, grace your ears. You know, if we were one venturing upon listening to a reading of such caliber and such a degree, we would immediately probably type in Amazon.com, search Shyzabox books, and buy that poetry book. Because, I mean, it's the best poem we would have heard at that time when we heard it, okay? That's why it's really important to be able to, you know, I guess, do that. Yeah, don't worry about it. All right, point is that as we have wheeled the dumpster out of the way, as the fires exist, like, you know, the mobile iteration and version of, you know, the LimeWire player now, the mobile streamlined version, not necessarily working, okay? Yeah, works against itself, right? Well, what can you do, right? You know, go to the IPFS, the regular one, get in line. Yeah, it works there, fine. We'll get it up and running. We'll get other, you know, kind of streamlined versions of things up and running, okay? We'll bring back the features that we had to remove and take out. It's all a kind of learning process to see exactly what we can get away with in the free versions of Pinata, okay? Well, again, without sponsors, being an independent researcher, you know, we're left to our own devices and being poor. That wasn't a joke. It's just where we stick in. Are you Jewish? No, we're not Jewish, but we have read the Torah. Does that count? That's probably more Jewish than some actual Jewish individuals we would think. But, you know, fantastic read. But no, we are not. We're not Jewish of sorts. We're actually Catholic by default. But we do like to venture into a lot of theological endeavors, works and things of that nature. So when we talk about philosophy and our theological components thereof, we like to offer our works like Why Hast Thou Forsaken Me? Or Transmutating God, or Bless Me, Father, for I Have Sinned. We don't have a copy of that one around here. That's our theological philosophy. That's if you want to touch base on that. So no, we are not Jewish, but we have read the Torah, we've read the Quran, we've read the Bible in multiple iterations, the Ethiopian Bible, we've read the Nag Hammadi, the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, we try and touch base with all of the old school theological, you know, kind of stuff that we can. We're well over halfway, you know, through the Book of Mormon, things of that nature. So no, we are not Jewish, but we do like to think we are fairly well versed in, you know, that of theology to some extent, way, shape, or form. We've taken philosophy of religion, though we do not hold a doctorate, of course, in any component or aspect thereof. So, no, we are not Jewish, but, yeah, we definitely love entertaining the components and aspects of theological discourse that any care to embark on that do. So, for that, case in point, though, like we said, we have our theological offerings, transmutating God, bless me, Father, for I have sinned, why hast thou forsaken me? That's all that stuff. The other stuff, pickled punk philosophy, that's our punk rock pissed off side. Okay? That's our buddy Meatballs on Monday poetry book. Every good philosopher needs a poetry book. Again, we're not saying we're a good philosopher. Okay? Did you find the right religion yet? Well, yeah, absolutely. If by find the right religion, you mean inherently just be, brought into that of the one with which we were born into, okay? Well, more or less so. That's where a lot of people kind of end up. So, yes, we found the right religion and, not, diverging from that of the religion that we were, brought up into and everything like that. Structurally, our St. Joseph Bible would inherently be the stronger foundation of which theological, argumentation, logic, reasoning would stem from. We definitely, while we follow Aristotle and things of that nature, we definitely turn to the St. Thomas Aquinas' interpretation thereof, different components and aspects of metaphysical, interpretations and things of that nature when it comes to his reasoning and logic, because dude was super duper smart. Alright? So we'll turn to St. Thomas Aquinas and kind of venture into, those components, into the metaphysical when we're talking about that. So did we find, the right religion yet? No, we did not find the wrong religion is the best answer to that question. Okay? Because whilst we, adhere to the parameters of our own, we entertain that of anyone's endeavors to venture into the theological discussion of any other, proponent of religion or theology or theological discourse or anything like that. Fantastic stuff. We try and be as well versed in any component or aspect of it that there is in thereof. Oh, and our book too, Lines of Change, Lines of Sand. Man, you want a theological book? Good luck finding that one. Amazon pulled that one. They weren't too happy with it. Most of all of our other, works and stuff available there. Transmutating God, yeah, that one's fine. Lines of Change, Lines of Sand, yeah, harder one to come by. And be sure that you don't, of course, conflate, too, if you're into the theology and things of that nature. We have other components and aspects and iterations of, obviously, our philosophical works. So whilst we touch on theology and quite a vast dynamic and proponent, especially when we have works like New Non-Native Species on Mankind's Origin, you need to have in place things that are foundationally structured and adhere to the foundations that religion has had since the inception of recorded histories and things of that nature. Why did the Catholic priest bring a ladder to Mass? Because he wanted to get a higher power. Well, that one will dawn on us as to how funny it is later. Because believe you me, if that was the best Catholic priest joke that you got, there's way funnier ones out there, okay? And some of them get downright rather ruthless, okay? Like, what's the... Yeah, I don't even know. What are the rules on some of this stuff? What do, Catholic priests and Michael Jackson have in common? Little boy's pants half off, something like that. I don't know. I see your point. Well, excellent. We're glad that you see our point because we failed to remember which point we made. But don't get us wrong. We know that it was completely awesome and, definitely correct. That's right. Celebrate Internet when you call Daryl Dixon dibs on being the best of the worst Internet celebrity there is. Okay? And believe you me, we did. You need to be able to pivot and segue into, virtually almost anything, okay? So, that inherently is what we have to do, okay? But we do need to make mention and touch base real quick as we send people to Amazon and things of that nature. You got to be very careful because once we proved our theory and things of that nature and moved a metric kernel of data from Kaggle to, Web3 and things of that nature, we had to raise the price of our book Delectable in the physical form and copy. So don't buy that one. It's expensive as shit, okay? The digital version's still cheap and things of that nature. You can read it on Kindle Unlimited and everything like that. The information inherently is, as valuable as what one, deems it to be, okay? But the physical copy of this one in particular is through the roof. Don't buy it physically, unless you're rich. Believe you me, even maxed out at the cost that it is, that money don't go to us. It goes to predominantly back to Amazon, okay? Well, they need it. I am Muslim, by the way, from Morocco. Well, super awesome. We just finished the Quran, okay? And believe you me, we thought it was quite the wonderful work, okay? That's right. We dare venture to say, and man, we want to almost touch base with care, because we would love to write a philosophical work about how people misinterpret so many components and aspects of the Quran. Now, again, we are not, Muslims ourselves. We are not studied in universities or anything like that. We took it upon ourselves to read these works, okay? We read the Torah on our own, we read the Bible on our own, regardless of, religious affiliation. We read the Quran on our own, okay, because we didn't want anyone else to, have to tell us what this, that, the other entails or has. But some, definite interesting things that we would love to discuss, all right, with, different components and aspects of publishers and things of that nature in regards to, some aspects and components of the faith therein, okay? Would make for perhaps quite an interesting read, and, we don't want to necessarily not share on streams like this, because this show will always be free, okay? But some of the more proprietary things of, our works and dealings and stuff like that, they do hit that little bit of a paywall kind of thing, right? Now, they have to. We offer the games for free. We offer the demos for free. We offer the theory for free. We offer our help for free. We offer our collaboration for free. All of this stuff we offer for free. But our literary works, we gotta try and get something on the back end, okay? That's right, celebrate for us. All right, and that's why we peddle the wares, to try and get, just a buck or two here or there, okay? Now, a buck or two here or there for one is a buck or two here or there for another, okay? When we venture into nailing kalimba, all right, we love to sit back and not only contemplate, all right, the different dynamics of resonantial frequency and things of that nature, but we love to tie in the story, all right, of what can be found, what can be incorporated, and what can be entertained as far as, the offerings that are inherently presented therein, okay? We want it to be a very functional enough, okay, endeavor and trip for that of one's mind who care to embark on it, okay? When we put forward, all right, the literary components and the literary aspects of our works, okay, there are just certain degrees and parameters that, as a artist, as an independent researcher, okay, as a solo, self-published author and things of that nature, you got to just try and make those little quarters and dimes where you can, okay? And so that's where we try and just hit it on the back end with, maybe someone has a Kindle Unlimited subscription and they want to read one of our books. Fantastic. We get a big old whopping 0.04 cents per page read. That's right. You might be saying, well, you sound poor. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Laughter warranted. But we're not poor in spirit. That's right. Because the offerings and things of that nature, all right, that we entertain with the mind and the psyche, we ourselves enjoy going back upon and, glancing therein and, rereading thereupon and finding all of our damn typos in there. Ignore those. Every good book has a typo. Or two or three, or multiple ones, doesn't matter. Point is that when you're on the ground floor level, all right, of an apparatus, all right, that's presenting and giving and bearing fruit, if you will. It doesn't have to be good fruit. But with the working games, the working demos, and, that of which we do offer, all right, on the IPFS site and everything like that, that of which we collaborate with the folks that grace us with their presence and, share their insights into the chat or shoot us an email with any ideas of stuff that they want to make or do. All of those components or whatever, like, funding has to come from somewhere. The whole energy isn't created nor destroyed. We got energy, but we can only put so much of it to so much stuff, okay? That's where anyone else would, shoot those emails, shoot those comments, shoot those blue skies, those X's, those tweets of the Twitters that aren't Twitter tweets anymore, okay? You go down those paths and you start the collaboration, you start the ventures and things of that nature of bringing forth just massive, awesome things, man. We can disseminate stuff. We can get it on IPFS. We can put stuff on Pinata. We can code stuff. We can put things together, working theories and forms and demos and functions, okay? Good old-fashioned fun. When we have our strides that we take, all right, to try and bring to the next level, all right, a faster iteration, a faster degree of dissemination, and you hit those little dumpster fire roadblocks like we've been hitting over the last few days, okay? Now, yeah, you take the little wins where you get them, all right? And tonight, we'll say that we had that little win in getting the mobile little, at least visual, demonstratable, working iteration and version, all right, to some degree, although the, kind of the LimeWire-inspired music player doesn't have all the features and on mobile doesn't work. The core of the build is there. Everything else that we can present and put in there and swap out is there, all right, and getting to that place, getting to that ability to do such is quite the process, man, when you're trying to add CSS to your HTML code and wrap shit around it so that you can make all of your links work and things of that nature. It's a pain in the ass. As an independent researcher, though, all right, as an independent developer, as a self-published author, as all that, we do these things because we have the energy to, and we entertain that of, all the other components for that up. You read the Jungian philosophy. It's the one that opened my eyes and helped me integrate my persona and my shadow. Carl Jung is the one I needed to see the unseen. He's the one who said, until you make the consciousness, it will direct faith. Well, you know what's funny? We're glad that you mentioned Carl Jung, good buddy. Kioskio. We can call you Kiosako, right? Of course we can. K-Money. So, K-Money. We're glad that you mentioned Carl Jung because we are definitely in the party of Carl Jung ourselves over Freud. And believe it or not, I hope it's not in this book, but it might very well be in Delectable, okay? Like we said, don't buy the physical copy of this one. It's very expensive. But we do talk about our, appreciation of Jung over Freud. Like we said, it might not be this one. We think it is. In which case that is, well, it's not unfortunate, but it's unfortunate, because to that degree, that way, that shape, that form, man, we don't want anyone to have to ever buy the physical copy of this book. We had to raise the cost of it when we proved our theory and, literally moved a metric kernel of data from Kaggle to Web3. We just had to. That's how it works. Lower the price. Now, But yes, in the long run, man, that's so awesome, or whatever, that you relate and correlate to Jung, because we do as well. And what a lot of people don't know, shit, it might be. We'll kick ourselves if it's in here. It might be in this one. Okay, it might be in our lines of change, line in the sand. All right. In fact, it very well may be. You might be in the clear and not even have to worry about delectable. That's the monographing electin. Now we're wasting time, but not really, because whatever. We get to do whatever we want. It's our show. But, needless to say, our correlation to Jung over, Freud is very, very, very much in play in our entire, philosophy, Shyzalosophy, okay? The philosophical practice of being that works in symbiosis in conjunction with, your entangled symbiotic ties that you make and maintain, okay? Fantastic. Jung and Freud, all right, just like Tesla and Einstein, just like many other people throughout history, they hit these branching paths of thought. Now, this is all for philosophical entertainment, okay? We obviously harbor no doctorate from any institution or affiliated, thing of that nature, okay, that verifies or guarantees anything that we can correlate with or collaborate thereon or say or disseminate, okay? With that disclaimer out of the way, all for philosophical entertainment. Obviously, with our degree in history and minor in philosophy and avid studies of both the components thereof, you have these divergent points in history between these massive entities and figures, your Jung and your Freud, your Tesla and your Einstein, that immediately, when those divergent paths happen, all of society, okay, for the most part, almost overnight, goes one direction or the other. Now, with Tesla and Einstein of the past, everyone went with Einstein, okay? Remember, Tesla's stuff killed that big elephant in Times Square or whatever, okay? Well, that's not a joke, that's not funny, rather a horrible thing, but it was the abuse of the testing methods and things of that nature, was it not? Or was it, maybe not even in Times Square? We don't want to get, the things wrong that we do, but the reference to the story inherently is the valid, portion thereof. There was a massive falling out between Tesla and Einstein, all right? And the world went with Einstein, okay? Whether it was out of sheer necessity, out of concern for safety, out of malicious components that worked, clandestinely behind the curtains, okay? And Tesla was off, this, that, and the other, okay? All of the conspiracy around it, all right? No matter what degree or component or aspect, foundationally, Einstein was the way that we went. Same thing with Freud and Jung, okay? Jung is disregarded in a lot of circles as the hoax, as the, kind of out there way of thinking, as the, not necessarily acceptable way to go as far as thinking of the psyche and everything, okay? Makes it a little more crazy, like, for individuals, okay? So when that divergent path happened, when they fell out, and things of that nature, obviously, Freud, being in the position that he was as well, society kind of stuck to, adhered to. That's why throughout media and television series, theoretically, obviously, this is all for philosophical entertainment, you have all of the references to Freud and not Jung. You have all of the references to Einstein and not Tesla. Now, nowadays, a little different, okay, with the resurfacing of informations, facts, things of that nature, as you yourself. Kiyosako, we can call you Kiyosako, right? Yeah, of course we can. K-Money. As we said, all right, all of these components and aspects or whatever, all right, are now brought to the light. And as you yourself said about Jung being, one of the, components of psychology that you can identify with and, things of your own, as well as we ourselves feel we identify with, that's just fantastic. Shows you that the reach of that information, okay, of that knowledge, of that way of thinking, all right, makes its rounds, gets around. If you're from Morocco, as you say, then it's just, shows you how far thought can travel, how far thought can go, and how the consciousness can spread from one entity to another. Being in Morocco, if you buy our most expensive book physically, no, we're not saying to do that, okay, and you have a physical copy there, that consciousness, all right, that you take upon in your psyche, all right, is immediately the cornerstone of the only component of that tied-in foundation, all right, in your entire area. Now, you read that book and you donate it to, someone who needed a new book. You buy it as a gift for someone. You give it away. You lose it. Someone steals it, okay? It doesn't matter. Point is that it exists in that consciousness that we conveyed and thought, put to word and, paper that you would then acquire, okay, and either put to your own mind or someone else eventually, even in just passing, reading a page or two or anything like that, all right? That is inherently the way that, that consciousness can transfer and then, just can, conform itself to all of the, channels that it goes in, okay? It entangles itself into all that. Okay, so page 14 entangles itself into everyone who reads page 14's, things. Now, page 14, there might not be shit on that page. Okay, there is stuff on that page. Doesn't matter. Point is that with you being in Morocco, with you having, your own psyche and consciousness and things of that nature, with whatever you bring to wherever you are, all right, you're representing that of yourself and your psyche and your consciousness, and that's something that, inherently, and again, we aren't psychologists, we aren't doctorates of any kind or anything like that, but when we look at the differences and, how Jung views things and how, Freud does themselves, definitely we side with Jung many time ourselves. Tesla was ahead of that time. Tesla absolutely was. Not only, Kiyosako, we can call you Kiyosako, right? Of course we can. K-Money, you hit the nail right on the head again. Tesla was well ahead of his time. We love thinking of, other individuals as well who wrote, the Universal one, Walter Russell. That book itself or whatever, Tesla is said to have read and said that Walter Russell is he told him to put the book away at 1,000 years too early for it or something like that. Okay, now, don't take our word for that exact, correlation, but the Universal one we've read, we haven't finished it. We're actually really close to the end. We need to jump back into it. The Universal one by Walter Russell, that is one hell of a read, okay? There's some very, very, very interesting things in that, as far as, components of music and theory and resonance and things of that nature. And we're not huge musical understanders ourselves, right? No. But man, some of that stuff is just pretty insane in there. So, for Tesla to be ahead of his time, to read a book from, Walter Russell or Walter, yeah, Universal one, Walter Russell Walter. Now we gotta look it up. Point is, or whatever, for Tesla to have, now this again, you gotta check it out, check behind us. For Tesla to have read it and said, hey, shelve this book, it's 1,000 years too soon, 500 years too soon, however too soon. It was too soon in his, quote that's, kind of attributed to him, meaning that, he himself saw merit in that of the works that Walter Russell brought forward. Okay? The Universal one is, like we said, is one hell of a read. We haven't even finished reading it yet. Okay? But you got components and aspects of it, right, that just inherently resonate and shine through, and you can see definitely resonated with folks like Tesla as well. But that's neither here nor there. What is here is the fact that we're out of our go juice. So, do we go get more? Okay? Or do we go get more and leave altogether? No, don't leave. All ones of us love being here. Hey. Good one, Mom. We are out of our go juice. And with that, we are going to call it. So, if you want to get out of here before us, now's your chance, okay? Go ahead and do it, okay? Because there's just one last thing that we need to knock out and do, okay? And before we jump the, entire show to a close, all right, before we venture down the path that we try to avoid at all costs on a regular basis, okay, when we go into that of the literary endeavors, okay, that we seek to impart onto others. On occasion, we like to do a little book reading, okay? Now, again, we know it's towards the end of the show, okay? All right. Why are you celebrating that? Fair enough. This isn't go juice. This is holdover juice. Point is that there is one thing that we want to do, okay, before we depart, before we leave you to your own devices and things of that nature, okay? Now, that's right, but, we can't stay on stream all night. Well, we're sorry, maybe one night we will, okay? If you pay us enough money. Okay? We'll pay you to never leave. We sell out pretty fast. That probably would be funny as shit. Stay on stream. Point is that as we venture into the close of the show, as we depart and want to depart with leaving a little more literary knowledge, we want to do a little bit of a book reading, okay? Now, this reading, okay, is going to come from Teresa's Scary Poem for Kids, okay? That's right. Now, you might be saying to yourself, that book sucks. Hey. Did you read it? Yeah. Jerks. All right, Teresa's Scary Poem for Kids. Now, we don't want you to just get scared, all right, reading these horror kind of things to you, all right? But we need to go ahead and impart exactly on the end of the stream here. Exactly just that, some scariness, okay? That's right. Because it's scary to think that as we've removed the dumpster, okay, that the fire remains. And with that horror coming to fruition, coming to light, coming to the knowledge thereof, okay, as everyone understands that, we need to venture into, once again, reading from Teresa's Scary Poem for Kids, okay, and putting out into the ether, all right, that of, in essence, I mean, to put it mildly, a cliffhanger, okay? Toenail. My toenail bleeds. I cut my foot. I kicked it far in the tree at the root. My toe it oozes, the blood now seen. If my toe were in two, a lady's face would split at the seam. Very vulgar. Very, very vulgar. But that cliffhanger, you know, if we're being honest, just leads us wanting more. Oh, you too. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, a cliffhanger like that makes us want to go to Amazon and buy the book right away. Teresa wants to be a famous writer. She loves writing about everything. One scary and chilling autumn night, she may just get what she wants if her mysterious journal doesn't get it for her first. Whoa. That's deep. But, you know, I mean, there's other works to peruse too, you know. Don't need to necessarily just depart with that of, you know, the scary, because inherently we don't want to just leave with a fright and a scare. It's not Halloween, okay? That's right. We want to leave you with one additional thought, okay? To take that horror, to take that scariness, to take that fright, to take that chill, all right? And swap it around. Make it entirely soothed at the core, all right? For everything that it has and offers, okay? All right. So for this next reading on the new non-native species, okay, on mankind's origin, we want to venture into a little bit of, you know, the components of intellectual thought, okay, if you will. Yeah, go with it. Sounds good. Don't worry about it. It's a free stream. All right. That resonate with everyone that can touch base and understand, all right, just how heavy this stuff really, really is. Okay. Now, a lot of people might venture to say, like, oh, this stuff isn't that deep. This isn't, you know, that hard to understand. This doesn't even, you know, touch base with the knowledge that, you know, has been missing from history or humanity for, you know, eons or decades or centuries or days or minutes or hours or however long you construe time in the construct and confines that man puts thereon. That's right. Mankind's the only one who seems to have it. But as we read, okay, this passage from New Non-Native Species on Mankind's Origin, available on Amazon.com and Kindle Unlimited, we want to point out that while philosophy might be hard for some people to come to terms with or understand, we try and provide directions, okay, in all of our literary works that resonate with individuals, okay? So, if you have a hard time understanding some philosophical components, fear not, because that's what we're here for. Okay, to provide that to you. Without further ado, yeah, again. Plants need water. Fish need water. People need water. Alas, water needs air to exist on that of a molecular level. Therefore, water needs. Well, you might be saying, that was really philosophical. And believe you me, it's a little excerpt out of a bigger excerpt. There's more that you can read. That's right. That's just kind of like a cliffhanger for you. You might be saying, like, cliffhangers suck. Now, sure, they're not the best thing. But when you're a self-published author, and when you do your own marketing and promotion and things of that nature, all right, inherently you need to take it upon yourself to divulge and disseminate everything that you can surrounding it, okay? Now, with that being the case, we like to think that we did exactly just that. And believe you me, we did. Excellent. But that is going to do it for us. That's going to bring it to a close as we have run out of our Go Juice and our Get By Swill Juice. That's going to do it for us tonight. So, we don't need your subscription. We want your money. Download the shit out of this. Go to Cashapp and give us a buck. Get off our lawn.